Today I'm going to give you my F1 2026 driver and constructor predictions. Now, just a little bit of a disclaimer for those of you who may be watching this, middle of 2026. Basically, remember when these were taken is all I'm going to say, because last year they were dreadful and I think these are going to be worse. It's really difficult to predict where everyone's going to be. And I think last year I got 65 points on my total, if I remember rightly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think it's going to be worse. Not as bad as Tomo's predictions. I mean, some of them have been crazy, but yes, obviously I've had the advantage over Tomo, the fact I'm doing these after testing. He did this before testing. Now, I don't think there's going to be more than 22 drivers. I don't see anyone coming in unless there's like one race when someone gets injured or is ill or whatever. So I'm going to do this from 22nd place, and in 22nd and last place on the grid, Lance Stroll. So Stroll, not in the best of form. He had actually a good start to the last season, but then after that it just tailed off. I don't think he scored any points in the final part of the season. To be honest, I can't remember what his results were off the top of my head. But Aston Martin and particularly Honda have had their worst week in Formula 1. For Honda, this is deja vu. It's 2015 all over again, where their engine was awful. And this time they're coming in not on when everyone else is starting the regulation change. They have the same time as everybody else to work on these regulations, and they have failed again. Now, obviously, a lot of that could be due to the fact that they've lost a lot of the personnel they had with the Red Bull Honda engine to the Red Bull Ford project. So, yes, that is something to think about. It's unfortunate for them because their chassis probably looks really good, but that car's going to last, 5 laps, if at all. They did 6 laps, I think, on the final day of testing. It's not looking good. Stroll's in poor form. I think the car, until Honda figure out how to get the most out of it, but even then, if they manage to get the performance they want of it, it's not necessarily going to be at the top end of that performance as well. At the moment, they're looking for reliability over performance, which is not great. All the teams are going to start, even though there's engine spending caps for both the engine and obviously the teams themselves. They're going to be on the back foot already. So yeah, it's unfortunate for Stroll. 21st place, I've gone for Valtteri Bottas. Cadillac, I've got the opposite of Aston Martin. Their issues seem to be around their chassis. I mean, it's not surprising, it's a brand new team. The engine, we know the Ferrari engine has been good. I'll come back to that later in the video. But for Bottas, when he has driven a Ferrari engine recently in 2024, and for Alfa Romeo, he wasn't that great, to be honest. This was a team that he could have done a lot better with. I personally think that he should have done better with in his couple of years that he had there. So, yeah, he's not the person I would have put in the Cadillac, personally speaking, if it was up to me, but there we go. I mean, he does bring experience, but does he have that experience of getting that lower tier car up into the midfield? I don't think so. His experience has been at Williams when they were pretty much at the front, and then obviously Mercedes when they're at the front. When he was at Alfa Romeo, when they were midfield at the back, he wasn't that great. So that's why I put him 21st. 20th place, Fernando Alonso. I feel for Fernando because this was his chance to get that 3rd title. I mean, it's been 20 years since he last won a title. It's been over a decade since he last won a race. We just want to see him have a good send-off. Win a race, potentially win the championship, and that'll be done. Be done with the sport. I don't know how much he's going to go on, whether he can stand driving at the back, whether he can stand another round of GP2 engine, because he's done this before. It's deja vu for him as well from 2015. Yes, as well. So, yeah, I've already talked about the Honda engine obviously being dreadful. I hope that I'm wrong on this. If I'm wrong, then, Honda proved me right that they can develop out from the back, and we might see a McLaren rise. That's the hoping for them. We all want to see Alonso at the front, but alas, I'm not entirely sure that as I said, while others are able to develop on top of what they've already got, Honda are on the back foot already. 19th place, Sergio Perez. Perez, unlike Bottas, does have experience of bringing midfield teams and getting points out of them. And unlike where the bottom three might not score points, I think that Perez has the ability to drag that Cadillac. It might not be many, but there's going to be a race where he will do some 64 lap stint on a set of hard tyres, and there will be a late race safety car, and he will change onto a set of softs, and he will keep that car in the points. So that's where I think that Perez is going to be able to. He's going to be good. We already know that he's good with tyres from previous experience. Obviously, he's had a year out, as has Bottas, so it's just about getting up to speed. But yeah, overall, that Cadillac car doesn't look good on pace. I mean, the chassis looks like something that Tyrrell put together in the 80s, and Tyrrell was awful in the 80s. 18th place. Now, this is where we start going into the midfield, and it starts getting difficult, and this is where it could go really wrong. I mean, Honda could pull a worldie out and destroy all our predictions, but 18th place I put Alex Albon. Now, Albon, he scored 3-4 points in the last part of the season, so he's not in great form. So that's something that he does have to think about. Williams have not had a good start as well, which is why I'm putting in 17th place Carlos Sainz. Yeah, obviously Mercedes are getting some engine. They're doing something to restrict the Mercedes loophole on the engine, which I believe is going in on the 1st of August. I don't know if that's not official at the moment, but I think that's what's probably going to happen to satisfy everyone really, as well. Williams have had on the back foot. They missed 3 days because they could only run a maximum of 3 days at Barcelona. Their chassis doesn't look great. We don't really realistically know how bad that chassis is going to be, but they don't look that good. So, and a lot of people are saying that they don't look that good. They look right at the back, and it's the chassis and the aero that's really costing them. So that's unfortunate for Williams. They had such a good season last year. I was thinking Williams are back. This was something to build. That was a build-on year, and then Williams are going to challenge the top 4. It's not going to be, unfortunately, in 2026. It looks like they're back to square one, unfortunately. 16th place, I've got... Williams in 9th place in the Constructors then. 16th place will be Arvid Lindblad. Now, I put Lindblad here because he's a rookie. It's going to be close at the midfield between the likes of potentially Audi as well, if they can, with a few good upgrades for them, but also Racing Bulls, Alpine and Haas. This sort of midfield chunk is going to be really difficult, and it might even be track specific between what they're separated on. Yeah, it's really difficult to determine who's going to be the front, who's going to be at the back of this midfield section, really. But yes, I put Lindblad, as I said, 16th. He's a rookie. Don't quite know where the Racing Bulls package truly is. Yeah, I think it's more towards the back of this 4, but obviously he's a rookie. If I remember rightly, he didn't quite set the world alight in Formula 2. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't think he was challenging for a title. I think he did get some wins, but Obviously, he'll want to build. It's his first season in Formula One. We saw this with Antonelli. You know, he's the same age as Antonelli was last season, and Antonelli made mistakes. So I think that Lindblad will more likely make mistakes, and that could cost him some points and potentially some positions in the championship. 15th place, and Gabriel Bortoleto. So for Gabriel, he had a cracking mid-season. You know, that was when the Sauber was at its best. And then it fell away at the end, didn't have the greatest of starts. So Bortoleto, as he's now in his second season, he needs to make sure that he builds on that performance. Again, needs to be close to Hulkenberg. I think he will be close to Hulkenberg, which is why I put Nico Hulkenberg in P14 as well. Audi P8. So, yes. For Hulkenberg, obviously, he's approaching the end of his career. We don't really talk about. We talk about Alonso retiring. We talk about a little bit about Hamilton retiring. We don't really talk about Hulkenberg retiring. You know, how many years has he got left in the sport? But obviously, it's a thought that Audi do need to think about. They obviously want to develop Bortoleto into the lead driver so that they can bring the next person into Formula One, or they want to try and convince Sainz to jump ship after he turned them down the last time. Who knows? But so that team, it's an okay package. It's a mid. They're probably at the back of the midfield, but I think with a few focused upgrades, they could be challenging at the top of the midfield. That's my personal opinion. 13th place, I've got Liam Lawson. I think Racing Bulls, the package, will be slightly ahead, and I think Lawson might be able to get the best out of that. Remember, he got some P6s, P5s, P4s in a Racing Bulls package that probably shouldn't have been that high up in the in the races last year. Obviously, he's got experience. He's done a couple of seasons now. Hopefully, he can build on the momentum that he had at the end of last season, and not obviously him being fired. But obviously, the fact that he's been selected over Tsunoda for that seat should give him some confidence, hopefully, as well. And that will put Racing Bulls P7. Again, don't quite know where their package is really, but potentially they too, with a few focused upgrades like Audi, can progress into the top of the midfield. 12th place on the Drivers' Championship, I've gone for Franco Colapinto. Now, I think that Franco will be able to score some points this season. That Alpine last season was an absolute trash can and a half. And I don't think Colapinto not helping him, the fact that he lost his confidence, I think, personally speaking, at points in 2025. The best, I think he started gaining that a little bit back when he started out qualifying Gasly later in the season. So I'm hoping he can build on those qualifying performances to springboard him up the order. Again, this is obviously depending on what the Mercedes power unit, because obviously Alpine have got Mercedes power now, not Renault. It obviously depends where their sashi is. It's not really set the world alight, but they have the ability to be the top of the midfield, and they could be P5, P6 in the championship as well. For Franco, as I say, needs to build on what his first. Remember what he was like with his debut at Williams. Scoring points in a car that second car that hadn't scored any points that season. So the pace is there. He just needs to convert that into some points, and that will help him in the championship. 11th, Ollie Behrman. Ollie had a really good end to the season game. Could have had a podium in Mexico. Has decided not to pit him for a second time. I think he's going to build on that, and I think that Ferrari might look at him for 2027, but you'll have to wait and see about that. 10th place is going to be Esteban Ocon. So I've put Ocon ahead of Behrman. I think that Ocon will be able to bounce back here on Behrman. Ocon didn't have the greatest of times in 2025, and in actual fact the team have already come out and said that against him. But I think that for Ocon, he has a point to prove. His teammate's no longer a rookie. I mean, if you exclude the 3 races that he did, but he's now done a full season. And, there will be eyes watching Esteban to see, are you better than Ollie Behrman in his second season? Yes or no? Because he's a driver. I don't know. I think he has a contract. I don't know for 2027. I'll need to look that up for the 2027 drive predictions video. But if he has a good 2026, and some teams could then look, well, he's having a good time of it in the Haas. Why not? He could be a good driver alongside such and such a driver. Now, that's not to say that it could also go pairs up, and he could also carry on like he did in 2025, getting, he needs to avoid going out in Q1 and qualifying, because if he ends up qualifying like 18th, 20th on the grid, that's no good, and you're at the back, and then you're not able to build on that. So he needs to ensure that he gets the points. I think he's going to bounce back, and you'll get P10 right behind Pierre Gasly. Gasly at time dragged that car to places it shouldn't be, as in the points last season. I think that Alpine are focused on 2026 alongside Cadillac. They've got the most wind tunnel time for the first part of the season. They've got the Mercedes engine in, so I think they're going to do well as well. Gasly's got experience. He's in probably the later part of his career now. How many years has he got left? I know he's just turned 30, and that does make me feel old. But he's got 5, 6, 7 years left. Maybe he wants to carry on even further than that with the team. But this is a good chance to show he's still got what it takes, because that car was awful in 2025. That will I'm going to put Haas ahead of Alpine, but it's going to be tight. So Haas P5, Alpine P6. And this gets us on to the bit that you've all been waiting for, and I've made you wait a quarter of an hour already into this video as well. So 8th, this is where it's going to get interesting. The top 4 teams. We all know that the top 4 teams are going to be the same as last year. But in what order? 8th place in the Drivers' Championship, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. So, for Antonelli, he had at times showed what he has got the pace, and he will be a bright star in the future, but he's not there yet, I don't think. I think this is going to be a building year for him, and when Mercedes' engine gets turned down after the 1st of August, I think we might see some lesser results from him. He has, the problem with his pace was also not consistent in 2025, and that's another thing he needs to focus on, because the problem is he would have some times where he would just be not catching the car in front. Like, he would pit early onto a set of mediums or hards, and you're supposed to then hit, you're supposed to be there, and then when the people he was racing at the start of the grid come in, they're 10 seconds up the road. So yeah, that's why I've put him in P8. P7, Isaac Hadjar. It's his first season at the front. I think that this is a chance for him to get a good result. We don't quite know where the Red Bull is, and obviously it's the curse of the second Red Bull seat. I mean, if he's behind the racing bulls like Tsunoda was, then they may be ruthless and get rid of him. The advantage he's got is that the team principal of Red Bull is no longer Christian Horner, so that, and also the evil Doctor is also not at the team anymore. So there is a chance that Red Bull will give him a bit longer. I think that Isaac can build on it. It's a new regulation changes, so I'm hoping that he's taken notes of where people in the second seat have failed. I hope he can adapt his driving style to match Verstappen's, because let's be honest, that's where the car's going to be, with that pointy front end as well. So yeah, Hadjar on P7. Again, it'll probably take him a little. I think it'll take him a little bit of time just to get, this is at the top. But I think that if the car is there, which I think it will be, he can then push for some race wins at the latter end of the season, potentially be on the podium. That's, I think, realistically is his target for the first year as well. I think that the start, he might not necessarily be there as well. P6, Oscar Piastri. So Piastri, I think part of the back of his mind might be, what if I bottle it again? And realistically, for Oscar, it's a position where, where I personally think that might be on the back of his mind at the start of the season. Obviously, the first race of the season is Australia, and no Australian has ever done well, because it's the curse of being an Australian driver at your home race as well. That might set him up to then fail at the start of the season. Again, McLaren, I'm not entirely question marks about their Sashi, whether it's going to be there. Obviously, they've got the Mercedes engine, and again, after the 1st of August, potentially could be limited, which is why I've put in P6. This could be close, but yeah, I've put in P6, and I put the reigning world champion Lando Norris P5. I think Norris can build on his momentum at the start of the season, but again, that engine cut off. How hard is that going to hit the Mercedes engine? I don't know. I think that they could drop off. All the Mercedes cars could drop off in performance in the latter half of the season. Personally, will they have secured enough points at that point? Where are the other teams going to be in relation to them as well? That's the two questions that we'll ask in the early part of the season. I put Norris P5. I'm not entirely sure if he's going to be able to defend his title. He had wobbles at times as well in 2025. Obviously, crashing out in Canada as well, and there were times where I just thought that he doesn't necessarily have the pace. There's other times where he's able to bring the pace out the bag, but Norris, and we saw this a little bit in 2024 and 2023, where he's in a position, and it's the same with Antonelli. You pit early, you try and catch up to the people you're racing, try and undercut them, and Norris does also have that form of then falling asleep basically and not putting in the lap times that are needed. So for him, hopefully he stamped that out. We didn't see it. Obviously, we saw McLaren at the front in 2025, so we didn't really see that a lot. But yeah, obviously Baku was the race where he could have opened up a huge lead over Piastri, and he bottled it. So that that just questions over his consistency potentially in a car that's not quite as dominant as the 2025 one. And that's why I'm going to put P4, George Russell. So yes, many people might be tipping Russell for the championship. I have questions about his consistency too. He sort of whines a lot on the radio, and you got to question, is that the mentality of somebody who's going to go on and win the championship in 2026? Who knows? He does have the pace, and I think he will win some races in the start of the season. But again, that drop off after the 1st of August could cost Russell the championship in P4. To be fair, I think obviously he was only like 100 points behind the McLarens in the end, which is not too bad, but For him, he just needs to build on them. Obviously, he's only won a couple of races in the season. He's not gone to win consistently enough, and there were times where he could have done that. I think in 2024 there was a time where he could have gone on and won a couple of races in a row, and he didn't. So there are question marks again of ability to win consistently throughout a season. That's my personal opinion. If you've got different opinions, then let me know in the comments below. So that will put Mercedes P4 in the constructors, McLaren just in front of them P3, which leads us on to the top three in the drivers. P3, Lewis Hamilton. You might be wondering why I put Hamilton so highly. These cars are, are back to where Lewis was good. The ground effect era did not suit Lewis's driving style, but the way the floors are and the aero side of it suits his driving style much better than the previous regulation of cars. Not only that, Ferrari's starts have been absolutely, he's been starting on the fourth row and be leaning by turn one. So I think that obviously some of the other drivers, the teams rather than the engines, might catch up on that a little bit. But I think that for him, is he slightly behind Leclerc? Don't know. Has he got? I would love to see Hamilton battling at the front, but I put him behind Leclerc purely the fact I think Leclerc had the better 2025. There's the better momentum as well, which is why I put Leclerc P2 as well. Yes, Ferrari seem to have a very good pre-season. Don't get me wrong. Again, this could be dreadful one. They have the potential to be 7th and 8th, and this to go horribly wrong. But if it's as good as pre-season has been, their 180 flip wheel ring has been approved by the FIA, so they're definitely allowed to race that. And then, obviously, Leclerc, I think that if you put him and Hamilton in equal proximity at their peaks, I think Leclerc's slightly the better qualifier. I think Hamilton's got the better race pace, personally speaking, but Leclerc definitely is the better qualifier, I think, personally speaking, but it is tight between them. And I don't think there's going to be many points for separating those two. Which is why I'm putting Ferrari in front of Red Bull in the constructors. So Ferrari to win the first constructors championship since 2008 as well. But I think that both of them are going to miss out, because even in a car that didn't look good, Max Verstappen shows that he's got it to come back from the dead and challenge for the title, and if it wasn't for a couple of results, he could have won last year. And I think that he is in the best position possible to be challenging for wins. He's going to be consistent. Got the consistency available. I'm not saying he's going to be quite as dominant as he was in 2023, but I think that overall, and I think it will be tight with him, the Ferraris, potentially Russell, depending on the fall lot, and the McLarens. But I think that nevertheless, I think Verstappen has what it takes to come out on top here. But, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about these, what you would change, what's your order in the comments below. If you are new around here though, please do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'd like to thank you spending half an hour of your time listening to me whittling on about F1 2026 driver and constructors predictions. But that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and you see plenty more F1 related gameplay as and when I come out. Until the next video, I'll see you next time. Take care, enjoy your day, and goodbye.